in a healthy way.
Okay. So, if I understand your question right, is that if we turn towards spirituality, and we may learn many things of value, but then when we want to turn back towards the world again, to engage with the world, we find that there is so much insensitivity there. And because of that, we feel rebuffed. And it seems that between spiritualists and non spiritualists, there is a huge chasm,
Huge divide. And
huge divide, yeah, which becomes very difficult to overcome.
Considering the whole mess that is happening in the world, a lot of us can contribute to the world, but how?
Yeah, true. There are two broad ways of looking at the world. That is, that the Gita talks about two distinct metaphors for this. One is, it says that in 2.69, that the difference between spiritualists and materialists is like the difference between night and day, and that the two shall not meet. What is night for the spiritualists is day for the materialists. That means that which is the phase of inactivity and lack of interest. There is that phase of superactivity for materialists. So that is one view, and there is to some extent truth in that. But the other vision that the Gita gives us is that whether we are materialists or spiritualists, we are ultimately souls. We are at our core. Everyone is on a shared human journey. And our spirituality increases our empathy. That we understand that whatever anyone is going through, the specific cause of pain or pleasure that they're going through may be different. But everybody undergoes the same pains. They get some pleasure, but much of the pleasure in the world actually gives way to trouble. So, on one side, if you say consider the spiritual material interaction, there is on one extreme it is there's one extreme is that we need to have a distance, we need to have a difference. It's almost like irreconcilable. That the values are going to be different, the purposes are going to be different. But the other part is it's universal. That spirituality enables us to see that everybody is going through life's ups and downs. And without spirituality, everybody will be prone to greater and greater suffering. So, this is 269, this is 632 in the Gita. Atma Upamena Sarvatra. So, what we need to do is that within the spiritual circles and within the social circles, we can say secular circles that we are functioning in, we need to find our particular area of intersection. So if we consider that, so this is spirituality. So spiritual wisdom is timeless. It comes from the past and it has been going on, it will keep going on. But we live in the current world. So if we consider the contemporary world that we live in. So now it is important for us to find where this intersects. So that if we go completely into the contemporary world, we lose our spirituality. If we stay only in spirituality, we'll not be able to connect with the contemporary world. So that requires generally talking with some other spiritualists who are trying to do some outreach, who are trying to connect. So I'll give two examples of this. That when I travel, for example, across the world, now I'm invited to speak in Fortune 500 companies, Intel, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. Now there, they are not primarily interested in spirituality. I'm a monk, but what they are interested in is the pragmatic effect of spirituality. What they found is that if their employees are more mindful, employees do some meditation, they have better skills for emotion regulation, then they'll take less breaks, they will have less breakdowns, they'll have to pay less health insurance. So their interest is particular. We want our company to flourish. But for that they do. So now when I'm going to talk in those places, I'm not going to talk about esoteric spiritual truths. I'm not talk about, say, paranormal spiritual experiences one might get by coming to the Himalayas. But what we may talk about at that time is that simple practices like deep breathing, mantra chanting, and how those can help them where they are at. So, for example, what I spoke today about trauma and healing, this is something which everybody can relate with. So, while there are people who are insensitive, there will be some people, or you could say there are many people in this area who will not never be able to reach. Those could be people, or those could be subjects. But this finding this intersection is what is called as realization. Realization means to look at spirituality, look at the spiritual wisdom, and look at the interests of the audience and find where it intersects. And when you find that intersection, then that's where we'll be able to communicate. So right now, for example, in India, there is a lot of revival of nationalism and especially cultural nationalism. Not everything about it is spiritual, but not everything about it is non-spiritual. So as a spiritualist, if I'm going to talk, I may not get into the political nationalistic aspect of it. But within the culture, there is spiritual, and I'll talk about that at that place. So it requires some interaction with others who are in a similar field, and by that it's possible to find. It's not easy, but it's definitely possible. Okay, thank you.
One more question.